A 1981 Numismatist article and a bunch of historical images. It's going to be a wild ride.
Absolutely. This material is amazing. We can explore how gold has impacted civilizations and economies, even the human psyche. And we're talking millennia here. It's incredible.
No kidding. Right off the bat, this numismatist article throws us a curveball. It says gold is actually stardust. Can you believe that? Forged in dying stars.
It's wild, right? Heavy elements, cataclysmic events, it all ends up here on Earth. That's some seriously high stakes bling we're talking about.
High stakes is an understatement.
Yeah.
And yet it's that whole cosmic creation story that makes it so rare and therefore so incredibly valuable.
It's true. And, it's fascinating to see how people throughout history have viewed gold. We actually have an image here of medieval gold miners. They believed you could plant gold seeds. Imagine that.
Talk about missing the mark, right?
Yeah.
But hey, at least they were thinking about gold. It's mind-blowing how long it's captivated us. Speaking of captivating, check out this image we have here. Ancient Egyptian goldsmiths, hard at work. One's meticulously overlaying a necklace while the other's keeping that fire going. Talk about dedication.
The craftsmanship is unbelievable. And, the Egyptians were obsessed with gold. They even saw it as divine, a symbol of immortality.
Which explains why they buried so much of it with their pharaohs, right?
Exactly. Like with King Tut, his tomb was basically a testament to gold's allure. Remember that solid gold death mask? Close to 2,500 pounds. And we're talking pure gold.
Pure extravagance. It's almost impossible to fathom the wealth. But you know what's even crazier? This image we have of the Lydian stater of Crucis, the first official coinage. This little piece of gold revolutionized commerce.
Oh, absolutely. Before that, it was all about weighing gold from different cultures. Can you imagine the chaos? Standardizing it with coinage, that was a game changer.
Total game changer. The article even says it paved the way for global trade as we know it.
It did. Though, as with anything this powerful, there's a flip side. Think of King Midas, the guy who turned everything he touched into gold. The Greeks weren't just messing around with that story. It was a warning.
A warning about getting too greedy.
Exactly. They knew that gold's allure could be dangerous. It could lead to some pretty bad decisions if you weren't careful. And believe me, history is full of examples.
Oh, I bet. Speaking of bad decisions, check out this image. A Roman emperor debasing Roman coins.
Talk about a recipe for disaster. Less gold content in the coins, you're basically asking for rampant inflation.
And guess what? That's exactly what happened. It even contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire. That's gold for you. Powerful stuff.
No kidding. It can make you or break you.
And that takes us right into the age of exploration. Gold was a huge motivator back then. Just think about Columbus and those conquistadors all chasing after that golden dream.
It's a complicated part of history, that's for sure. On one hand, you have this incredible drive for exploration and discovery, but on the other...
Yeah, we can't forget about the darker side, like with the Aztecs. They were incredible goldsmiths. We even have an image here. Look at the detail on that turquoise and gold ornament. Stunning.
Beautiful, isn't it? And then you see the image of Cortez accepting the surrender of the last Aztec emperor, and it's just, well, it makes you think.
It does. It's a stark reminder of the exploitation and destruction that often came with this quest for gold. But even in the midst of all that gold fever, some people kept their heads on straight.
Oh, absolutely. Like Vasco de Balboa. Here's a guy in the thick of it all, and he says he'd rather have a sack of corn than a bag of gold. Makes you wonder what he knew that others didn't, right?
Right. It's like he understood that gold wasn't everything. It makes you think about the true value of things, doesn't it?
It really does. And it leads to some interesting questions about how gold's role has changed over time. But we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, gold isn't always about striking it rich, is it? But to understand how its role has changed, we need to look at how it's been used throughout history.
You're right. So let's jump ahead a few centuries to another gold rush. This one a little closer to home. The California Gold Rush. The article describes it perfectly.
Gold.
Gold! Where one man obtained $128 worth of real stuff in one day's washing. Just imagine overnight riches. It completely transformed the American West, didn't it?
It did, and it's a great example of how gold fever can be about so much more than just, gold. It can spark massive migrations, huge innovations, even reshape entire landscapes.
It's amazing how one metal can have such a huge impact. But its influence goes way beyond those crazy gold rushes, doesn't it? And eventually it became the foundation for the gold standard.
It did. The gold standard was basically a promise. For much of the 19th and 20th centuries, countries linked their currencies to a fixed amount of gold. It was like saying, hey, Our money is as good as gold. It was meant to stabilize things, limit how much money a government could print.
And did it work?
Well, for a while it did. It helped international trade and made people feel more confident in the global financial system, that's for sure.
So why did we move away from it?
Good question. Like anything else, it had its downsides. While the gold standard provided stability during good periods of growth, it could actually make things worse during economic crises. Imagine a country in a recession. If they're limited in how much money they can print, it's going to be a lot harder for them to get things moving again.
That makes sense. So what happened? Did they just ditch gold completely?
Not exactly. After World War II, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, came up with a new system.
And that's where those SDRs come in, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm still a little fuzzy on what those actually are.
Yeah, SDRs can be a bit confusing. They're basically a kind of international money created by the IMF. Each country contributes some of its own currency to a pool, and from that pool, SDRs are created.
So it's like a global currency.
Sort of. It's more like a supplementary currency that countries can use to support their own reserves, especially during tough economic times.
So does that mean SDRs have replaced gold? Or does gold still play a role in our modern financial system?
Another good question. It's not a simple answer. SDRs are important, but gold hasn't gone anywhere. It's just transitioned into what's called a safe haven asset.
A safe haven asset. What does that even mean?
Imagine the economy is a bit shaky, right? Recession, political instability, things like that. Investors get nervous, so they start looking for a safe place to put their money, something that will hold its value no matter what happens.
And that's gold. Right.
Exactly. It's tangible, it has a history of holding its value, and it's not tied to any specific government or financial institution. It's the ultimate safe bet. Even central banks still hold gold reserves, and lots of people see it as a good way to diversify their portfolios. It can be a hedge against inflation, too.
So gold has gone from being the backbone of the financial system to being like an insurance policy. That's fascinating.
It is. But, getting hold of all this gold is no easy feat. It's not like we can just scoop it up from the ground. The process of actually extracting gold is incredibly resource intensive.
Oh, I bet. It's not like those medieval gold miners could just plant a few seeds and wait for a golden harvest, right?
Not quite. Take the Witwatersrand Reef in South Africa, for instance. It's one of the largest gold deposits on Earth. You know how much ore they need to extract to get just 1/3 of an ounce of gold?
How much?
A ton. A whole ton of ore. That should give you an idea of how much effort goes into getting our hands on this precious metal.
Wow, it really puts things into perspective. We've talked about ancient Egypt, the gold standard, even modern finance. But what connects it all? Why is gold still so captivating after all these years? It really makes you think, doesn't it? What is it about gold that's captivated us for so long?
I think it speaks to something deep within us, It's more than just wealth, more than a status symbol. It connects us to history, to those who came before us.
It's like a tangible link to the past. Ancient Egyptians, King Midas, those California gold fields.
Exactly. And we see how it can be a force for both good and bad, how it can shape destinies and bring down empires. It's a powerful reminder that some things are timeless.
They really are. But we live in a different world now. Digital assets, cryptocurrencies. It makes you wonder, where does gold fit in all of this?
It's a question worth considering. We talked about the shift from the gold standard to SDRs. Could we be on the verge of another big shift?
Could cryptocurrency be the new gold standard?
It's possible. At the heart of any currency is trust, right? People need to believe in its value. Gold has stood the test of time, but the future of finance is constantly changing.
That's for sure. Online banking, contactless payments, and now digital currencies. Who knows what's next?
Exactly. But as things change, it's important to remember the lessons we've learned from gold. It's a story of innovation, of ambition, of the human desire for something rare and valuable.
It's a reminder to be cautious, to think critically, and never stop learning. Well said. You've given us so much to think about today. So to our listener, next time you see gold, whether it's a piece of jewelry or a news story about its price, remember this. It's not just a shiny metal. It's a story that's been unfolding for centuries.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be adding a chapter on cryptocurrency to that story.
Until then, keep those brains buzzing and keep diving deep.